Let's say, welcome Mr. Barrence Whitfield.
That's me.
Do I pronounce it right?
Sure.
Thank you. Welcome in Belgium. I can say welcome back in Belgium.
Oh,
because
yeah.
you have been here
Many
more than one
times.
time.
Oh yeah, early 2000s.
Yeah.
I was constantly coming over here to play with the Seat Sniffers. So I consider myself a Belgian.
Half Flemish or French. That's no problem.
When I hear more Flemish than anything.
When I hear the Seat Sniffers, Flemish.
Yes.
No doubt about it. Thank you for your time.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for our time. We are from Roostheim, Flemish music website, but you know all these days.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Barrence Whitfield, when you were very young, you were interested in music.
When I was, oh sure. When I was
you were singing in a gospel choir.
Church?
Yeah.
I, as a matter of fact, it was across the street from my house, so I had no choice. The priest was over to my house every morning. Is Barrence going to be at the gospel service today, the choir service? I said, my mother said, yes, he'll be there. You know, so I was trapped.
At high school, you also sang and you played drums, I think?
A little bit, yeah.
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah,
but
high school I did a lot of singing. Yeah.
But that was in a funk band.
Well, I was in like a funky band, like a soul band, with my cousins and all. So I mean, they you know, that was my first introduction to playing live music. And I mean, that was my first club experience playing with those guys. So it was, you know, it was interesting. It was fun.
Can I say that you were destined to become a musician?
Yeah, you probably could say that. I mean, it took a little bit going. I had a lot of learning to do between listening to radio and reading about a lot of stuff. So I had a lot of learning to do before I became who I am today.
How would you describe your style yourselves? Because when I go to your website or to a website and I type in Barrence Whitfield, you got a lot of...
Well, I'm all over the place.
Yeah.
And I don't, well, I mean, basically...
a mix of, no?
Huh?
A mix of styles, no?
Well, you know, I can sing gospel, I can sing jazz, I can sing soul, I can sing rock and roll, I'm pretty much versatile. But you know, for the many years that I've been performing, I've kind of stuck to a roots kind of style to sing, you know.
Mm-hmm. I want to go back to your youth, but I don't know that everybody knows your real name.
Everybody knows my real name. A lot of people do.
He's very right.
Yeah, Barry White. Yeah.
White.
Yeah.
So there was a guy when you worked in the record shop, a musician, Peter Wienberg.
Yeah, he's here today.
Yeah, he's here today.
Yeah, he's playing guitar.
Great to know. I think that was anywhere the beginning of your band.
I would say it would be the beginning. I mean, because he had just left the band.
Tell us a story.
Well, I mean, we both worked in the same record store.
Oh, that's...
At one particular time, it's called Nuggets in Kenmore Square in Boston. And a friend of his was working at the store at the time when I was there, and he kind of gave me a nudge. He said, "Hey, listen, you know, a friend of mine is in the process of putting a band together. He wanted to have a black singer who could sound kind of like Little Richard." I said, I can do that. I mean, it's possible. It took a while to get the screams going. So, you know, he hooked us up, and you know, I went over his house, and he's a big record collector. So he played all these wild records in 45s, and you know, the first thing he played for me was this tune called "Mama Get the Hammer Flies on the Baby's Head." And I said, oops, this sounds like something that'll be, you know, that's interesting. And he played some other wild rock and roll stuff from the 50s and some 60s stuff. So it started there, and then Phil Lanker, the bass player, right over there, was with the Fold all the way, because he had played with Peter in a band called The Liars. And yeah, a very legendary kind of garage band out of Boston. So, all right, well, there was the makeup. Then we got this drummer named Howie Ferguson, who played in the Real Kids. And then we got a sax player who also worked at Nuggets named Steve LaGrega. And we went to this little room, back Bay area, actually no, Fenway area, and started rehearsing. You know, it's just knocking off one song after another. And
then you knew that was your band.
well, I just knew that the band was ready, getting ready and willing, able to go out there and shock some people. So, and I think we did for those early days of the Savages. We did shock a lot of people.
When I go back in time until 1984,
Right.
it was your first release.
Yeah, the first album. Yes.
Till now, the last album, Sunflowers of Titan.
Yes. Old Flowers of Titan. Yes.
More than 30 years.
Yeah, it's been a long haul.
34 years.
Yeah, but it actually started putting it back together, because after the second album of Dig Yourself, band kind of broke away. You know, Peter went one way, Phil went the other. You know, broke up, and then about 26 years later, when this thing started to happen again, we were all like, you know, doing our thing. You know, being daddies and family men and working jobs.
Just
and
old
stuff.
guys, no.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I will say this: when we got back together to start doing this, I mean, it clicked back again. You know how something like you think it's going to take a little while to gel, and I think it right there. I mean, it took a few shows, but I mean, it took some rehearsing. But I think it was right there. It was right on spot. It was destined to happen again.
Something about your bands, they stand out because of their strong reputation as live bands.
Oh yeah. Well, live we really put the pedal to the
How
metal.
do you keep this going on? This spirit, this.
It's part of the DNA. It's part of the DNA. It's just, you know, it's one of those things. Once you get on stage and you just start rocking, you know, and then you see the reaction of the people looking at you. Their faces turn from like, okay, here, and within the third song, it's like a festival we were playing in Spain, and these people have been out all day. And, you know, this was a local kind of like village. They had this huge festival. And after the second song, it was like a frenzied audience. These people, even the little children that were standing in front of the stage. There was this kid, I watched him, had glasses on. At first he was kind of figuring it, what is this? And, you know, by the fifth or sixth song, the kid was going, he went mad. And I'm talking about, he must have been about 7. He went mad. I mean, he thought I was Mickey Mouse on acid or something. I don't know, but that's how it was. It was, it's that kind of feeling and energy, I call it, that just surplants the whole. You can't help it.
So I can say there is no life without your band.
There's no life
without your band. The Savages.
I would say that it's definitely. We've done some great records in the last 7 to 8 years, but the live act still shines no matter what. You know, we've done, and it's also a credit to the musicians that that I'm lucky to have.
Yeah, the lucky guy. Yeah. Your latest release, Sunflowers of Titan. The album was released after Under the Sacred Sky. You somewhere read this about the album. It was giving the kids a musical shove to the head. You know that sentence?
I know that sentence. Yeah, it's you know, today.
You want to wake them up.
Well, they need to wake up. I mean, you know, they're floating in a cavern of whitewash, and I mean, it's just like they're floating. And then when they hear something, you're into it.
You're not afraid about the reactions of the parents? No.
Parents will fall right into the same thing.
You give them a kick.
Do you know how many?
Kick.
Do you know how many kids or young people that I've met through the years who will come up and says, "Yeah, my dad used to go see you, blah blah blah," and I believe in him, and I think you're great, and you know, so there's generations of people who, you know, if you get a hold of them, they'll enjoy it.
Can you tell us something about the title?
Soul Flowers of Titan?
Yeah, Flowers and Titan, how should I see that?
Actually, it's something I mean, Phil does a great recognition because he's the one that put that title kind of together. So he always has a good word.
Phil,
that's why he
Can you explain something? Can you tell us something about the title?
Yeah, well,
I couldn't read.
briefly,
Put them together. The flowers and the
Saturn, we met and played with Sun Ra, and Sun Ra has a connection to Saturn. He says he came from Saturn, and we dedicated this album, or some part of it, to him, the spirit. We met him. Titan is the largest moon of Saturn. Saturn, astrologically, which I'm not big on astrology, is the planet of liberation and human struggle to liberation. Titan's the most forbidding environment of poisonous methane gas, rivers, poisons and gases, and ammonia, and flowers that could survive Titan could survive anything. It would be strange, twisted beasts. So we look at our songs, the process we went through to write them, to select them, and to develop them as a difficult and twisted process, but these hardy beasts survived. And we think that that harsh environment and what the struggle to create this record made it good.
See, he explains that very well. That's why you have to have that on.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
You have to have that on there.
How different do you think that the album is when you compare it with the other ones?
Well, you know, by what he said, it still has the elements of the Savages. It still rocks, still wild guitar, wild sax, but the songs itself, they're more, how can I say, soulful. They're more, mystical, you know, they have a meaning. In a lot of the tunes, but it still retains the savage sound that we want to give it. So it's an interesting record.
Thank you.
That's why I didn't put my face on the cover.
Yeah.
And I've had my faces on almost all of the Savages records. So yeah, and you see me all the time. So you know what I look like. So I thought, I said, you know what? This time, let's leave my face off the cover. Let's give you know, a little bit more mysticism
Okay,
to the record.
Just, are you working on new things, new songs?
Not right now. I mean, this just came out, so we're still like touring and introducing the record to a lot of people. So I mean, there's a lot of other. I'm actually doing the Sun Ra project as we speak, separately, back home, which won't be out until later on this year. But you know, I'm always doing other projects when I'm back home in Massachusetts.
Once a day you said, "I'm a soul screamer."
I'm a soul screamer.
I'm a soul screamer.
Well, I've learned my.
You're still that same man?
Yeah, learned my trade from James Brown, Wilson Pickett, Little Richard, Archie Brownlee, who was a gospel singer for the Five Blind Boys of Mississippi. I mean, I love, the screaming is part of who I am because of the church, part of the church connection. That's what they used to do back in the day. They used to scream their guts out for the Lord.
Do you have a life beside music?
Do I have a life beside
music? What keeps you on when you're not a musician?
Well, I mean,
roller skating.
no, I don't do that stuff. But I'm totally into music, 100%. I'm always involved with music somehow, and I also have 5 grandchildren that I chase after. So
when you come home, Daddy, hey,
it's Papa. Hey, Papa's here. They haven't seen me in a month. And they keep asking, when is Papa coming home? Because they listen to my music as well. One of them came over to me a while back and said, Papa, well, where did you get Bip Bop Bip? And they listened to it on YouTube, and they were running around the house going, Bip Bop Bip, ow. They were screaming.
Great.
And I said, oh my God, what have I created? But no, they get into it. I think they're gonna see me this summer. I'm doing a thing that we do every year. I participate every year at my town, and it's a big fireworks and stuff. So I'll be performing. So they'll get another piece of the action.
I have a few last questions.
Go ahead.
What did you learn about yourself by being a musician?
Well, what I learned about myself was, first of all, I could do it.
That's great.
And second of all, probably the most important thing was to be respected by all who've seen me,
colleagues,
heard me,
public,
and who have met me.
Yeah.
And that's all I ever ask is the respect. And what I give back is the love to the people, because I love to see people smiling and sweating and laughing, and because in the days that we live in the troublesome times we're in, it's good to see that people can leave that behind for a bit, forget about politics and racism and
the problems in
the troubles of the world. Music will always be the most important thing in your lives, to just get away from reality for a little bit. Because if we didn't have that, I think we'd be button heads all the time.
Like you said, your last gig here in Europe. Plans for the next days, next weeks? Performing in the States?
I'll be performing in the States, and just being myself, talking to people, and I got to enjoy my family, because when I left home, was it in April? This month I missed Mother's Day.
You're from home for April.
Yeah, I've been gone since April. So in May I missed Mother's Day.
Father's Day that's next week.
And Father's Day, well, I'll be back on time for that. But I also missed something very important. I missed my 27th wedding anniversary. So I got a lot to catch up.
Don't forget it when you're back home.
Oh, I didn't. I was actually able to send a bouquet of roses home. So that gave me brownie points. And also, I found a box of Leonidas.
Ooh, Belgian chocolate.
Which will save my life.
You're clever man.
Every time I bring them home, it's like a phone call away. Come, he's brought them home. Come on over. So,
I have a last question about the show tonight. You have to close the day today. What will be on your set list? So, you're the man for puts the songs on the set list.
Well, we put them all together, but it's pretty much a lot of the new record and some great songs from different records we've done through the years. It's a set. You'll like it. You have to sweat,
I hope so.
I hope so too. If you don't sweat, I'll throw some water on you. That'll get you started.
Okay, Mr. Barrence Whitfield, that were my questions. Thank you again for your time, and thank you again for your beautiful music.
Well, thank you for having us here, and I always like Belgium. Thank you very much.
Hope to see you again.
You will.